Craig's is kind of a deceptive in its name, seeing as it's not really a camp at all. Now, of course, most people will tell you that absolutely yes, it is, but that's stubbornness speaking. It's as much of a camp as those little carnival trains or locomotives. In definition, yes, but in practice, no. Craig's leads you to believe that it's a camp, sure, but the first giveaway should be that it's nestled in the heart of Malibu, California. Camp staff have all sorts of stories about running into various Hollywood royalty while Lon runs to the coffee bean. It lends itself to the illusion of wilderness. You turn off of the narrow road, lined with million-dollar beach properties, and snake into a steep, narrow valley. The road leads through a park freckled with bushes, cypress and eucalyptus, or something, honestly. I'm not sure what kind of trees they are, but they certainly aren't pine. Anyway, the road wanders through this park, cutting through a valley and reminding you of what old California must have been like. The wild age of mustard-colored hills and olive-colored trees. Maybe they're olive trees. Is that an official type of tree? Dust kicking up in a romantic way, sweat sticking to your arm after a long stretch in the sun. You might imagine a young couple on horseback, him in cream-colored pants, a white shirt flapping in the wind, her in a dress, the skirt painted in red and yellow ringlets. At least that's what I imagined. Even the few buildings lend themselves to a romantic old Mexico aesthetic. Pale stucco walls broken by arches, those red curved tiles linking across the rooftops. The road eventually leads to a wooden bridge that stretches over a murky green creek. I spent years believing that it was full of unseen alligators. I was an impressionable child. But after you cross the bridge and go through the gate, you turn right to discover that Camp Craig's isn't a camp, no matter what they might tell you. It's a well-paved, maintained, and somewhat humble resort. You might notice the bright blue, high-fenced pool or the carefully constructed Zen waterfall type of pond next to the dining hall, or maybe the 4-story tall conference center brimmed with an air conditioner. All air-conditioned hotel rooms. It can get hot down there after all. When I was 4 years old, my mother and I spent a summer at Camp Craig's. She was working with kids as she prepared to move into seminary, and me just wandering around, not trying to get myself bitten by something or another. I remember playing by the creek, cautiously, of course. I had been warned about the alligators. I had a Batman Returns novelty cup from Taco Bell, and used it to house tiny frogs I found along the banks. They didn't stick around, for some reason. At one point during the summer, I ate an orange slice, and having a firm grasp on the biological world, kept the seeds and planted them near a bush outside of the dining hall. I actually checked the spot several times over in the following years, always a little disappointed that I had never managed to sprout a fully grown orange tree. There was a bright, shining moment that summer when I was riding my little bike with such fury that the training wheels snapped off, and I continued down the road, soldiering on into the unknown until I toppled over. I had a friend that summer. Honestly, I don't remember who it was, what their name was, how old they were. I think he was a boy. He and I wandered around that summer, getting into as much trouble as 2 kindergartners could. I had a soccer ball. Or maybe it would have been his. Again, the details are fuzzy. But we carried it around, bouncing it against the concrete and fighting off boredom. There was a small building called the canteen, and for an hour a day it sold candy. My favorite were the Jolly Rancher sticks I could get for about 15 cents. My friend and I had arrived early, and the canteen wouldn't be open for quite some time, so we decided to hover around the area so we could get a good spot in line. Somewhere in that time, I noticed a small swallow's nest. If you're not familiar, a swallow's nest is not the type of idyllic nest most of the birds of the world put together. It's not the wheel of branches and feathers perched between tree branches. A swallow's nest is a collection of spit and dirt, crammed into buildings where the wall meets the roof, dirty domes with dark holes. They look much like barnacles, or maybe a nest for giant wasps. This particular swallow's nest was jammed into the space above the canteen window, with 3 baby birds chirping wildly for their mother. For some sick, twisted reason, my 4-year-old brain thought that the best action to take at this point was to smash the nest with our soccer ball. It wasn't easy. Taking turns, we hurled the ball up to the corner, smashing it just to the left, right, or under the nest. The baby birds were growing scared and chirped more fervently. Finally, with a lucky chuck, I nailed the nest dead on. The 3 baby birds plunked out of the hole and onto the concrete, dead. Guilt washed over me like flood water. I felt horrible, like a senseless murderer with no real motive. And just when I thought my heart couldn't be any more bruised from my actions, I turned around and saw my mother standing there, hands on her hips. She spoke firmly to the 2 of us. "Where do you think you're going? You killed them. You bury them." And so, with a small garden shovel and a face full of tears, I scooped out a hole about 8 inches deep and lowered their broken little corpses in. I've been quite nice to animals ever since.